always making the guests that we bring that are international feel comfortable and also then talk to them afterwards. That's so wonderful. And today I have 3 guests, and 2 of them are going to be speaking a little bit. And so I'm going to ask Ulu Pinar, who is his first name, Mehmet. You have already met him because he has spoken to us last year. And so we have a follow-up on that, and we're going to be talking today about Turkish-American relationships. And I'll let Mehmet please introduce my other 2 guests and our distinguished speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. Well, it is a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Jana, and thank you for bringing that international vision. We're happy to have you in Conway. For those who don't know yet, she is taking an international trip to Nepal tomorrow as part of our international outreach. I'm always impressed with the Pledge of Allegiance we say before our meetings, and it ends with liberty and justice for all, right? And unfortunately, that's not the case in many other parts of the world, especially in my home country, Turkey, where liberties and justice have been on hold for quite some time, several years. And instead of my speaking here about it in relations, I have found a young and energetic lady, Sumeyra, who is a rising senior at Brandeis University, double majoring in international and global studies and history. She is also studying Arabic under her minor, Islamic and Middle Eastern studies. In order to improve her Arabic language skills and understanding of the culture, she spent spring 2016 semester in Jordan as a study abroad student. And we promote study abroad at UCA. She is an active writer for the Brandeis International Journal Club and the secretary of the Brandeis Turkish Student Association Club. She has held internship positions at the Massachusetts State House for former State Representative Christine Canavan and the Turkic-American Alliance in Washington, D.C. As part of her local outreach efforts for Turkish Americans living in Arkansas, she recently visited Arkansas Congressional Delegation in Washington, D.C. And during the summer, she is working as a research assistant for her history professor. Please welcome Sumeyra for her presentation.
Thank you for the intro. Most of you are wondering about what's happening in Turkey recently, so I have a short presentation about the recent developments in Turkey through some main questions that should be asked. So what happened? On Friday night, July 15th, there was an attempted coup by a group of the middle-ranking officers in Turkey. Their focus area was Ankara and Istanbul, and they started with taking control of the Istanbul's bridges, airports, some police stations, and the Turkish parliament. This attempted coup was ill-planned. Why ill-planned? First of all, there was no attempt to muzzle any of the political leaders. Whenever Turkey has experienced, unfortunately, coupled coups in its history, and whenever there was one, the military would take over all institutions of the government, including the prime minister and the president, and the social media. We don't see any of that here. So it's right to say that it was ill-planned and badly executed, and their efforts were thwarted very easily by the police and very significantly by the huge public support. Here's a cartoon I've seen recently. It clearly summarizes the role of the public support in Turkey against this military coup. And as a result, unfortunately, we have 260 people killed. They include civilians, and some include people who were behind the coup attempt. And we have 1,500 wounded and 3,000 soldiers arrested. The government was interestingly very quick to state who was behind this coup, they basically said that the Gulen movement is behind it without any evidence. And some government ministers have also blamed the U.S. And Secretary of State John Kerry stated that such an accusation could only deteriorate the relationship between Turkey and the U.S. And that they also stated that they are with the elected government in Turkey and not with the military coup members. So I have some interesting pictures here I would like to show. The picture on the top left is President Erdogan's tweet at the night when the coup attempt was held. He's saying basically, I'm inviting the people of Turkish Republic to the streets and to the airports to protect democracy and the national will. And here on the bottom part, he's using FaceTime to give an explanation on CNN Turk about the military coup attempt. And ironically, he's using social media that he has been attacking before and after the military coup. And on the top right, we have the leftover guns and uniforms of the soldiers that were taken by the police. And on the bottom right is a picture from the 1960 coup. And one of those people arrested is the Prime Minister of Turkey, Adnan Menderes, and other government officials. So if you can compare the 1960 military coup to the one we have experienced this year, you can see that, you can beg for the question, was this a real coup or was it staged? These are some questions to keep in mind. So who is behind the coup? It's hard to say. There's no clear evidence to blame anyone. We can only guess by looking at who is benefiting the most out of it. And we do know that Erdogan has been using this incident as a leverage to further purge on the society and the state. I will give you some numbers. Around over 50,000 government employees have been fired, including teachers, journalists, and police officers. Unfortunately, the highest purge was on the Ministry of Education. The licenses of 21,000 teachers were revoked. This is a huge attack on education, which is an essential aspect for the future of a generation. And these attacks actually have been happening before the coup. Erdogan has been attacking the media and journalists and educators before this. But now he has added the military into this. So we have 3,000 officers being arrested when only 47 of them are actually behind the coup. So this also begs for the question, how did the government determine the culpability of these thousands of officers in one night? Clearly, the government wanted to take down these people before the military coup attempt. So why has Erdogan blamed Gulen for this attempted coup? You probably heard in the news, Gulen and his men has been the scapegoat for Erdogan since several years. And let it be a 75 US Senator letter on the undemocratic regime in Turkey to the corruption case that was against Erdogan and his party. Gulen has become a pretext to purge state and society of anyone not loyal to him. And he has been stating that the Gulen movement is a parallel state within the government, and not only that, but also a terrorist organization. And he didn't have any arms visible to prove that point, but now this incident is his evidence to create a link between arms, terrorism, and organization. And then I will show you a quick video of him talking about democracy, one from 1994 and one from July 16 this year.
Oh, that's upside down and backwards.
It has subtitles.
İnsanlık bütün dünyada olduğu gibi Türkiye'de de demokrasiye yönelmiştir. Türkiye'de bugüne kadar belli kesimler ancak demokrasinin ölçüsüyle yaşamışlardır. Onda birini almışlardır ve onda biriyle bugünlere kadar gelip ulaşmışlardır. Ben inanıyorum ki bundan sonra Türkiye'de de dünyanın başka yerlerinde de demokrasiden geriye dönmek mümkün olmayacaktır.
Fakat 7 küsur sene evvel bir panelde demokrasi dedim. Ben bugün mevcut iktidarı intizam eden o gazeteler tarafından taarruza maruz kaldım. Demokrasi geriye dönüşü olmayan bir vesiledir esasen dedim. Cumhuriyete de öyle baktım. Onlardan evvel cumhuriyetçi olduğunu söyledim. O zaman onun aleyhindeydiler. Demokrasinin de aleyhindeydiler. Laikliğin de aleyhinde konuşuyorlardı.
So has Glenn condemned the coup? Absolutely, and very quickly. The Alliance for Shared Values, it's an organization that speaks on behalf of Fethullah Gulen, has condemned the coup right after the news, and Gulen also had a personal statement condemning the coup, and organizations that are inspired by Gulen have done the same. And this is actually him calling for an international investigation, and he has stated that he will accept the result no matter what. He's just calling for an international one.
Bu son hadise münasebetiyle yani şunu söylenebilir. Böyle bir iddia varsa hakikaten burada benim tanıdığım, ben acizane sevk ve idare ettiğim, benim dediğim şeyleri yapan insanlar uluslararası bu organizasyon bu meseleyi takip alsın. Hakikaten var mı yok mu ona göre karar versinler. Çıkacak sonuca ben razı oldum. Yalan bile olsa para verilip iftira şeklinde böyle kağıtlar imza atılsa, olsa bile ama uluslararası bir organizasyonun yapması bunu koyarım, tavsiye ediyorum.
So we do know that a lot of people have been critical of Erdogan, and how come that they're now supporting the government in this incident? To be honest, 40 to 50% have already been behind Erdogan. They are the ones who elected him as the president. But those who were previously critical of him are now supporting the government because nobody wants a military coup in the country. And I think that should be the perspective of anyone who cares about democracy in anywhere. And because there was no support for the military, there was a lot of support for Erdogan and his government, because the military coup attempt is an attempt against the government. If you're not siding with the military coup, you're automatically siding with the government. And so we're going back a little bit. Why are some people not happy with Erdogan? Why do we have a problem like Erdogan in Turkey? In his first and second terms, Erdogan ran a very reforming government. The economy developed increasingly, and a lot of people from different religious backgrounds have more rights right now. For example, a person with a scarf can now work in a federal institution in Turkey, which was not the case before. However, from 2010 onwards, Erdogan had started to rule by a populist Islamist policy. He started to divide people by calling them Kurds, gays, or women, men, dividing people into based on their ethnicity, religious background, etc. And as you know, there was the most famous Gezi Park protest in Turkey in the summer of 2013, and this was a protest against his authoritarian regime more than anything. And he basically said that the Jewish law is behind it. And this went further when there was a very famous corruption case, as I mentioned, and millions of dollars were found in the ministers' houses, and there was a video of Erdogan and him basically talking about, it wasn't a video, it was a recording of him and his son talking about how to hide money, etc. All of these proofs were against him and his regime. So he tried to suppress the evidence by attacking the judiciary, replacing thousands of police officers and detaining journalists. Some journalists are not even allowed to enter the country. These things happened before the coup. And now with the leverage of this incident, Erdogan is more strong with his purge against these institutions. And many people are unhappy with this. So what now? Military was the only part of the government that was not under his control completely. But with this, he has taken the military under his control as well. The chief of staff has given into his control basically, and his next stop will be the Turkish diaspora overseas. Just yesterday, I saw a tweet. It says that under Turkish pressure, Azerbaijan has closed its largest and most successful university because of its links to Glen. It's funded by a businessman who is linked to Glen, so they closed that university. They also closed a 24-year-old newspaper in Azerbaijan. So we're starting to see the impact of Erdogan's purge overseas, which is very unfortunate. And one thing we know for sure is that nobody wants a military coup, and we also know that just because a military coup attempt was failed doesn't mean democracy is the winner. And this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, be happy to answer. Yes?
One of the things we're concerned about in our district is we do a lot of youth exchange programs. And so we're very concerned about sending any of our kids or doing exchanges.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to get worse, better? What
I
was your
mean,
impression?
we always have hope, to be honest, but for now, there's a huge unrest. Actually, just recently, Turkey has declared a 3-month of it's a phase where they can actually attack any journalist, anyone who opposes Erdogan, even though without any legal process. So this phase is gonna give more power to him. So, I mean, as a tourist in Turkey, it will probably not affect the daily life of a tourist, but safety concerns and freedom of entrance to specific places can be narrowed down because of these events. Any other question? Yes?
Would you be free to return to Turkey now or return to the intellectual college professors and educators and others who are under attack now? Where do you stand? Are you here temporarily, or what's your relation back to the Department?
I'm actually Turkish American. I've been living in the US since 2005. My parents live here, and I'm a university student. I don't work anywhere in Turkey. I don't have any links with any formal institution. And I'm not someone that the government will target and know that who is against the government or something like that. But just to be safe, I wouldn't go back to Turkey right now, because you never know, based on these things we're seeing on the internet. Yes.
I would just like to say thank you for this very insightful and cohesive look at what has happened. I think that we've only seen fragments of the pieces that have happened, and there's been a lot of contradictory information. So I think this has been very, very insightful. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
If you have a look into the future, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, what do you think is going to happen in Turkey with leadership, military? What's your prediction?
It's hard to predict anything positive right now, but in history, based in the pretext of history with dictatorships, we don't see any dictator remaining. Most of them go down at some point. And I hope the same will happen for Turkey, and that we'll see a better version of democracy. But I can't say anything for sure. I can't predict anything because especially the Middle East is known for having news come up every second. So things change all the time. But we're hopeful because that's all we have. As a religious person, I'm always hopeful for the future, for humanity. And I try my best to keep it that way.
I have one more
Yes.
question. As educators, it is terrifying to see a government among soldiers and officers being arrested, journalists, but then that many educators, that many teachers. Can you talk for just a moment about the future for youth who may not have access to an open, liberal education?
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. The Ministry of Education, as I said, was the ministry that was attacked in the highest amount. And most of the private schools that these teachers whose licenses are revoked are the most successful schools in Turkey. They produce students who are able to enter the highest level universities in Turkey, etc. So it's a huge hit on the education in Turkey. And without proper education, you cannot teach democracy to the youth that will lead the country in the future. So attack on education is an attack on the future of a republic, and it's very devastating to see such events happening to this part of the government.
Thank you.
Thank you for emphasizing on that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Whitney, for that comment, because I do